I want to welcome you all. My name is Marty Mascari. I'm with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging and the North Central Texas Aging and Disability Resource Center. The ADRC, or the Aging and Disability Resource Center, is a project of the Area Agency on Aging. And we do all sorts of stuff, but we'll have other webinars on that. We're thrilled to have you here today to talk about, do you qualify for veterans benefits? In addition to Haiman+Hogue, who we partner with quite a bit, we got Paul Hendricks here from the Veterans Center of North Texas, is here to join us. So we're going to first talk about the CEUs for those of you that are joining us looking for CEUs, and then we'll get started. So if you would advance the slide, and then Sheila, if you'd go over the CEUs, that would be great.
We'll be happy to. Okay, for those of you that have not joined us before for CEU credits, very easy to do. There are 3 forms that you see on the screen: an eval, a sign-in sheet, and a conflict of interest form. Why do you have the conflict of interest form? Because we do this for a living. That's why. But today, notice what I'm saying, because I had to say it twice on Tuesday. This is strictly educational on our part. We're trying to help veterans and their families and caregivers that deal with veterans as much to educate them as possible. This is not anything to sell anything. This is strictly educational. So what I would need from you is an eval form filled out and a sign-in sheet filled out. Then I would be happy to send you your certificate.
Very good. In addition to Sheila's evaluation form, as you close out, you will also see an evaluation, or you should see an evaluation form pop up from a Google survey. And we're asking you to fill that out for us. That's because our funding sources require us to collect that information. So if you would fill that out as well, that should pop up. But I do know that some of your companies have restrictions on those pop-ups and some of your malware and that kind of thing. So if you don't get it, it will also, the link will also be in the follow-up email that has Sheila's documents in with it as well. So Sheila, do you want to introduce Paul and we'll get rolling?
I will be happy to. For those of you that know us, we have been working with, we love to work with veterans, obviously, and their families to help them if we can. But legally, the only service that we can provide for them is trying to help them get an attendance if they are, which is a veterans benefit pension, if they are qualified. So often that leaves so many holes in what we can do, because that's all we are qualified to do. Well, the Veterans Center of North Texas, Paul Hendricks, who is retired Air Force himself, he founded this agency to help fill all of those holes. They can help veterans with so many different programs and needs that we cannot do. So I thought, what of a better time, because we get questions every week about this, to bring him on to let him educate you, who you can, if it's your family, your spouse, whatever, you'll be educated. But if you're caregivers, which a lot of you are, you can now educate other people as to who they can call, because Paul and his team do a fabulous job to help veterans as much as they can and to give them resources to who they can get further help. So without any further ado, it is my honor to present my friend and colleague, Veterans Center of North Texas, Paul Hendricks.
Well, thank you, Sheila and Marty, and folks on the webinar here. It's indeed a great opportunity to be with you here today. Sheila, can you sound check? We're doing okay?
Paul, if you could talk up just a little bit, there's a little bit of an echo or something with it, but if you could speak up, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, Marty, how's that now?
Great.
Better?
Great.
Okay, good. So again, thank you all for having us here today. This is an honor for me, and hopefully we'll be able to impart some information. So my name is Paul Hendricks. I'm the executive director, and as Sheila said, one of the founders of the Veterans Center of North Texas. We're located in Plano, Texas. We serve 10 counties in North Texas. And I realize there's folks that are well outside of that area. When you get the slides, if there's a question that you might have, we help people all over the nation get them connected. We are far from experts We've served a ton of people. But the best way to describe what we enjoy doing is being a collaborative agency. We've developed a tremendous amount of knowledge over the years that we've been doing this. And we do it with a lot of pride, and everything we do is we're volunteers, so sometimes you get what you pay for. But the 10,000 or so veteran and their families that we've served in the last 8 years, I think would believe that they're getting very good service. So again, we're the next slide, Ron. So we're an information referral and crisis intervention center, and we started out as information referral. So initially, we would provide information on how to get to places, and a good lot of our clients initially were Gulf War veterans trying to find where the VA is or where a BFW might be, and how do I get assistance in care, because they just didn't know. And so we started out providing that information. We also provided services to help people referring to the community. Our community, and I'm sure communities all around the country, are very open and welcoming to veterans. So we use our community very well in a collaborative way, back and forth. We are aligned with about 170 different organizations in our community, and we will refer veterans to those organizations, and the organizations in turn will refer veterans back to us to help for us to serve. Now, over the years, we have found it necessary to provide sort of immediate service, if you will, and so we've turned ourselves into a crisis intervention center. And another name for that is providing financial assistance in a very timely fashion. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward here. So we've been, go back, Rhonda. You have good anticipation, but a little too early.
Sorry.
So we've been doing this type of activity at the Veterans Center of North Texas as a nonprofit organization since 2014. We're volunteer managed and operated. We have a couple part-time employees that help us do grant management, but for the rest of us, we're all volunteers. We only do it for one reason, that's because we love to help veterans. As I mentioned earlier, over the course of the 8 years or so that we've been in business, we've served nearly 10,000 veterans and their families. And so most of our veterans will come to us with a family, and we count those as folks that we've served. And our goal is really one thing, and that's to help our veterans find the resources and services available so they can be stable in the community. And that's what we do every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30. So shown on the slide here are our guiding principles. Those are the areas that we focus on. Our number one and primary initiative is to prevent veteran homelessness. We have found over the years that when a person becomes homeless, it is very, very difficult for them to stabilize in the community and get rehoused. So we want to come to their rescue immediately and do everything we possibly can to prevent them from getting evicted, prevent them from their house becoming foreclosed and the utilities being turned off and things like that, things that would push them out into the streets and living with neighbors and situations like that. So that's our number one and primary focus. And we get a lot of referrals from our community when someone will find out that someone is in the process of being evicted. We want to stop that if we possibly can. But it has to start early, because once the legal system gets engaged, it's very, very difficult to turn around an eviction or a foreclosure. The second area that we focus on is really all veteran needs. We'll say if there's a bump in the road, that bump in the road could potentially cause a downfall of a family, and it might lead to an eviction. We will do our very best to try to stop that bump in the road. I'll give you an example of this. A good lot of our veterans are low income, living paycheck to paycheck, and just a little small thing that might crop up will become a major issue. An example of that might be, let's say the car breaks down, and maybe it's $400 or $500 to repair the car. Without the car, you can't get to work. Without going to work, you can't pay the rent and the utilities and so on. So it becomes a spiral effect and brings the entire family down. So when we run into that situation, we'll try to understand the whole scenario. what's going on with the family. Why don't they have a reserve account, which everyone should have if they can. And we'll try to do what we call a root cause analysis to try to understand how the family or the veteran got into the situation, how we can work on that root cause while we're addressing the issue. So in my example of a car repair, get the car going, if it's a reasonable price, we'll do that ourselves. If it's a major repair, we might help get assistance from the community. But all along, we're working on the root cause. Because if there's unemployment, underemployment, relationships inside the family, other demands, or what we see a lot of times is uncontrolled spending. People are spending money that they wish they had, that they really don't have. And we try to help them balance their lifestyles. We have a couple of professional financial counselors that take a good hard look and will make reasonable recommendations to the family on how to rebalance their budget. One of the main efforts that we go through is try to help families earn more money. If there's only one earner, wage earner in the family, if needed, we'll try to get the other wage earner to work also. Sometimes we find our veterans are working for $10 an hour, and they have much more capability in that. And sometimes we'll work on self-confidence so they can build their skills and build their income up and try to get a living wage. Here in the county that I live is Collin County. The living wage is $27.50 an hour. So if the family does not have $27.50 an hour in the aggregate, it's going to be very difficult for them just to live. So we try to encourage that. And again, we're looking at the entire family, soup to nuts, to try to provide a stable relationship. Now, we're not just a one and done organization. Once we get a hold of a family, we want to stay with them until they become stable. So it's not like someone comes in and gets a check and walks out. It doesn't work that way. When we start aiding a person, it's a long-term relationship. And our goal is to stay with them for a minimum of 6 months, ensure that whatever roadmap we have jointly developed with them, they're working on, and hopefully they'll ultimately end up in a stable relationship. Next slide, Rhonda. So our goals, pure and simple, we sort of talked about them here, is to help establish and maintain productive lifestyles, and we think we do that fairly well. We have about an 80% success factor, so that means we have about a 20% situation where a family just can't move forward in their own plan here, and we have some people that will come back to us and have experienced other difficulties, but we're about 80% productive, which I think is very successful in our area. Of course, our bottom line goals, we want families to be able to go to our schools, pay taxes, and go to religious institutions, and just be part of the community as most of the rest of us are. Go ahead, please. So we do this with the steps shown here. We pride ourselves on providing service between 0 and 5 days for that initial service. If a veteran comes into our organization and has proof of their veteran experience, normally it's a DD-214, but it could be a few other items, we will go to work immediately and do a detailed intake. But we get cases all the time where someone will come in and say, I've got to go to court tomorrow, I'm going to get evicted. Or the electricity's turned off. And of course, in Texas, especially in the summertime, electricity is a lifesaver. You just can't exist without having a heater to cool home. And so we'll stop as soon as we have a verification of being a veteran. We'll get that electricity turned right back on. We'll go to work on the eviction, try to understand what's going on. But while we're doing that, we're still doing the detailed intake analysis and moving forward. Again, we pride ourselves on doing root cause. We understand why the situations are going on and try to prevent this from happening in the future or reduce that recurrence. Financial counseling, we talked about earlier. We develop a joint roadmap together that we believe and the veteran would believe would result in stability. Again, we're not a one and done. We're not a unilateral organization. We use the community and the community uses us. So we pride ourselves on sharing with other grantees and other organizations in the community. And the very last bullet on this particular slide is we're also tied into the court system. We support folks that have been involved in the Valor program in Texas, which are low risk folks that veterans that have had a run-in with the justice system. When they exit the system, we'll help them get to their homes and provide some initial support. We're also part of the Veterans Treatment Corps, and we're proud of doing that. Again, the goal here is to help our veterans become stable in our communities. So shown here is two major efforts. One, the primary efforts that we serve in the gray boxes on the upper left there, and it's pretty well soup to nuts on the types of services that we have available, either directly or through collaboration. At the bottom is my pyramid of need. Number one is shelter. Number one is shelter. If you don't have a place to live, if you don't have a stable environment, things go awry in a piece, in a hurry. So we really work on that shelter. And again, our number one issue here is to try to prevent veteran homelessness. We work on that. The second one is immediate need bills such as car payments, utilities, car insurance, house payments, rent payments, and things that it just takes to get going, assistance with groceries while we're trying to understand the problem. Third one, which is really important, is that financial management, that training required to balance your budget. And the fourth one is the unemployment or unemployment. We'll work very diligently to try to find the right job for the family. We use, in addition to our own resources, we also outsource. We have several organizations that will help find jobs. Not shown here, and it's a global issue, it is an issue of mental health. Sometimes mental health is really a problem. It's a cause that's driving a lot of problems. And we're tied in with a tremendous number of mental health agencies that provide low cost or free mental health services. And these are long-term initiatives that help stabilize the veteran and the family. Mental health affects the entire family. We are strong believers in that. So that's the types of services we do at the Veterans Center of North Texas. Next slide, please. Our number one driver here, this is kind of an eye chart, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, far outshadows everything else. Go ahead. And in our particular area here, we serve any veteran that can indicate that they have veteran experience. Typically 18 to about 95 years old, the folks that we've seen. The average client that we see is age 57. One thing that we do that is a little bit unique, some organizations will not service a veteran that has less than honorable or dishonorable discharge. We are here to serve human beings and help them move forward. So that's not an issue with us whatsoever. Last slide. And this is the last slide. Veterans Center of North Texas, our number one objective is serving veterans. We're a volunteer organization. So if you know somebody in the Plano area or North Texas that would like to work with us, we're all volunteers, 4 hours a week. That'd be great. If you'd like to partner with us so we can refer veterans back and forth, there's our information. My name is Paul Hendricks. I'm the Executive Director of the Veterans Center of North Texas. And I'm proud to be with you here today and proud to pass off to the next presenter, Tom Ford.
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a question real quick? I'm sorry.
Please.
Paul, great presentation, great information. Can you tell us what are the 10 counties that are in your primary service area?
Yes. So I'll rattle them off here. Collin, Grayson, Cook, Hunt, Fannin, Rockwall, Dallas, Tarrant, Denton. And I missed one here along the way. But
that's all right. That gives us a good idea.
Kaufman to Tarrant, up at Red River down to the bottom of Dallas.
Great. Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. Great stuff. Thank you very, very much.
And now I'm going to introduce you to our attorney, Tom Ford. It is not Rhonda yet. I know it says Rhonda on the screen like it did for Paul, because that's all we decided. It was easier for y'all if they all shared a computer. So anyway, This is Tom Ford, and a lot of you that were on Tuesday met Tom because he is our Medicaid attorney, but he and Rhonda also work with VA, getting people VA pension benefits, or trying to. My attorneys are always on me to say that you tell people we will try to help you. So, and without any further ado, Tom Ford.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation today. And now we're going to talk about long-term care. Long-term care needs can be provided through various sources. For instance, you can get home health care, you can get assisted living facilities, you can get skilled nursing home facilities, and VA benefits provide some of that care as well. The average life expectancy of a person of people in the United States in 1950 was 68. Now we're at 78. And every day until 2030, baby boomers will turn 65. So 10,000 baby boomers will turn 65. So our population is aging. Currently, over 56 million people are over 65 in the United States. By 2050, 86.7 million, or 21% of the total population, will be over 65. And at least 70% of those seniors will require some kind of long-term care at some point in their lives. The national average cost for long-term care is about $7,700. In Texas, it's about $5,000 to $5,500 for a semi-private room. It can run higher if you have memory care issues. We estimate that the cost of long-term care in 10 years is going to be about $10,700. The average stay for someone in a long-term care situation is 2.3 years. And nationally, 75% of single individuals and 50% of couples will exhaust their life savings within 1 year of entering a nursing home. So there is a financial strain. 90% of Texas nursing home residents exhaust their resources and reach the poverty level after only 26 weeks, or about 6 months of care. The way long-term care is funded in the United States, public sources fund about 4.4% of the needs of people. Private care affords about 11.6% of the people assistance. Out of pocket, people who spend their own money are about 22%. And Medicaid provides care for about 62% of the people that need long-term care. Medicare and Medicaid are government assistance programs. Medicare is not a long-term solution for long-term care. The full coverage of Medicare only applies to the first 20 days in a rehabilitation facility. From day 21 to 100, the patient pays $185.50, and Medicare pays the rest, which is about 20%. After day 100, Medicare is not available. So if you're looking at long-term care, Medicare will help you in the short run, but not in the long run. The average Medicare covered stay in a nursing facility is 22 days. Medicaid is a long-term solution. It pays for long-term care after day 100. Federal funding provided to the states help those in need. Medicaid is a federal funded program subject to the regulations in each state. The program is administered in Texas by the Texas Health and Human Services Commission. otherwise known as HHSC. We all know the government's love initials. Many different programs are based on needs. Some are facility-based, some are community-based, and many are means-tested, which means they want to know what your assets are. Veterans benefits can fall in two areas. One is service-connected, that is, you had an issue that arose during the time you were in service, and you're eligible for service-connected benefits. The other kind of government assistance that the VA provides is non-service connected benefits. Those are also called an improved pension. There's a special monthly compensation pension for homebound and aid and attendance. And these are the subjects we're going to talk about this afternoon or this morning. An overview of veterans' pension benefits. If it's service-connected, you must have suffered an injury during service that resulted in disability or may one worse. Disability ratings determine the level of benefit, and there's no means testing. It doesn't depend on your income or assets. But it has to be a service-connected injury or disability. The other kind of service that the VA provides is non-service connected. It's also known as veterans pension or improved pension. And this provides financial assistance to supplement income. No connection is necessary between the medical disability condition and the military service of the person that needs help. It's need-based and it's also means-tested, which means they look at your assets.
This one, aid and attendance, there are, we don't necessarily have the values in here. That's something we could provide at a later time, but there are different rates that are paid depending on whether a person just simply has low income, if they're homebound versus if they need that special allowance for aid and attendance, such as, caregivers, things like that.
There are maximum allowable pensions available, and they're available to either a veteran with no dependents, a veteran with a spouse or child, or to a surviving spouse. That's a death pension. The basic pension that's available to a veteran with no dependents is $14,753, or about $1,200 a month, $1,229. For housebound pension, the total annual amount is $18,029, or $1,507 on a monthly basis. And aid and attendance for a veteran with no dependents, the annual pension is $24,610, and the monthly amount is $2,051. If you're a veteran with a child, it goes up from $14,000, or a spouse, veteran with child or spouse, it goes up from $14,753 to $19,320 on an annualized basis. That's $1,610 per month. For a housebound veteran with a spouse or a child, the pension is $22,596, or $1,883 monthly. For a veteran with a spouse or a child, if you're eligible for a full aid and attendance, the pension is $29,175, or $2,431 per month. Surviving spouse of a veteran is entitled to a basic pension amount maximum of $9,896. Housebound spouse of a veteran, of a deceased veteran, maximum pension is $12,094. And for aid and attendance, the maximum amount of the pension for a surviving spouse is $15,816. There is a three-part test for determining non-service connected pension eligibility. First part of that is service. Second part is disability or medical situation. And the third part is means or assets. Service aspect must be either a veteran or a surviving spouse. And surviving spouse must have been living with the veteran at the time of his or her death and cannot remarry unless to another qualifying veteran. This pension also requires an honorable discharge, and it becomes the eligibility determination is 90 days of active duty with at least 1 day during wartime. Reserve service doesn't count unless you're activated by a presidential order. It's got to be federal service. The wartime periods that these pensions, veterans of these pensions are eligible for include veterans of World War II, which for the purposes of determining whether you're a World War II veteran, you served between December 7th, 1941 and December 31st, 1946. If you're a Korean War veteran, you served between June 27th, 1950 and 12/31/1955. A Vietnam veteran would have served from August the 5th, 1964, or if the service was in country earlier than August the 5th, 1964, the beginning date for qualification for the pension is February the 28th, 1961. And the ending date is May 7th, 75 for either category of Vietnam veterans. The Gulf War veteran wartime period, began August the 2nd, 1990, and is still open, it's still in effect. The disability aspect of the determination for eligibility for a basic pension, that's the first one that we talked about. You have to be 65 or over, you have to be permanently and totally disabled, or a patient in a nursing home receiving skilled nursing care, or receiving Social Security disability insurance, or receiving supplemental security income, otherwise known as SSI. In order to qualify for the housebound pension, you must have one disability rated at 100%. That is something that disability that makes you 100% disabled, and you must have a second or subsequent disabilities totaling 60%, or you're unable to leave your home. For aid and attendance pension, you must be blind or nearly so, bedridden, a patient in a nursing home, or who needs help with 2 or more activities of daily living, such as bathing, feeding, dressing, toileting, transferring, moving from one position to another, or ambulating within the home or living area. Instrumental activities of daily living don't count, such as shopping, food preparation, housekeeping, laundering, managing finances, handling medications, using the telephone, and transportation. The means test is a financial test, and it's an asset test. And your net worth cannot exceed $138,489. There are ways to change your wealth so that you can qualify legally. And the means test is for both spouses if the veteran is married, or for a surviving spouse. And there are increases annually for cost of living, and the amount of your net worth is calculated at the date of the claim.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, we're passing the torch sharing this computer today. Sheila, if there's an echo, please let me know and I'll adjust myself a little bit. Basically, when you're looking at, sorry, let me get my slide fixed. When you start talking about income that counts for VA purposes, so accountable income for VA purposes, you're going to see that referred to as IVAP throughout the rest of the presentation. It's going to include all income for the household minus authorized deductions. A popular or the main focus of those deductions is typically medical expenses, those that are not reimbursed, for instance, by health insurance or any other source. So IVAP is going to be your gross income minus those deductions. Countable income cannot exceed the maximum pension amount in order to get the benefit. So just a quick example, one that's really easy to kind of visualize is if my total income from Social Security was $2,000 and I had a medical need, maybe I have dementia or Alzheimer's, and my doctor says I should go live in assisted living, so I'm in a nice protected environment and they're providing the assistance I need. Those kind of care environments might cost $3,500 on a monthly basis or more. So that $3,500 medical expense is clearly more than my monthly income in this example, in which in the VA's eyes now I have zero income. So you can see it's described here, the countable income, IVAP cannot exceed the maximum pension rate. IVAP is less than zero, the claimant is entitled to the full pension amount. So in my example of $3,500 medical expense minus my income, or my income minus the medical expense, rather, it zeroes out my income for VA purposes. So again, that biggest authorized deduction is going to be unreimbursed medical expenses. Okay. Constitute a reduction in countable income. So unreimbursed medical expenses, again, things that are medically necessary. So I need to have the medical need or a disability, something that warrants the type of care that I'm paying for. So things that improve disabled individuals' functioning or that prevent, slow, or ease the functional decline. So it's something that's going to be recurring. When you initially apply for VA benefits, of course, they're going to look at all of those other qualifiers, the dates of service, my medical need, my income, my assets. When you first submit an application, the kind of point here behind this must be recurring statement is that what they're going to look at is my regular monthly expenses. So not things that fluctuate like medical supplies necessarily. So the monthly cost to an assisted living center, that's going to count. My health insurance, I'm paying that every month. Those things are going to count and be deducted from my income in order to figure out, you know, do I qualify first of all, and how much money could I get up to that maximum amount. Long-term care insurance payments are counted as income or can be deducted from the expenses involved. Examples for things that we're going to pay for unreimbursed medical expenses. Cost of care in a nursing home or assisted living. If you're in assisted living or sometimes even independent living under some very particular circumstances, those things can count. The needs that I have are going to have to be certified by a doctor, and the things I need help with need to be being provided as part of what I'm paying for that care. In-home care, typically the cost of help with those ADLs and incidental ADLs, if again certified by a doctor, they can be provided by family members. I'm going to kind of jump between VA and Medicaid just a little bit to tie them together. It often confuses people. You'll note here it says that those things can be provided again by family members in your home. So under the VA rules, it is possible to do caregiver agreements and pay a child, a sibling, or some other family member to provide these medical or these assisted services to the veteran. However, those same kind of tools in a VA environment might disrupt that person's access to Medicaid later, which can be really important. So before diving in and doing something that is a planning mechanism, it is a good idea to kind of compare the Medicaid rules as well, so that they don't inadvertently prevent themselves from getting something that they're likely to need later, especially as their care needs progress. Healthcare provider payments like that facility, insurance, long-term care premiums, prescribed medicines, medical supplies, medical equipment, things like that. So earlier I said when we first apply, we're more concerned with those regular expenses, such as the assisted living bill, the health insurance, and things like that. Say, for example, my income was high enough to where the medical expenses didn't entirely zero out my income. And initially, I might be awarded a smaller pension amount. However, as time goes on, I can turn in additional medical expense reports. So things like mileage to doctors' offices, more medical equipment, prescriptions, things like that that kind of vary over time. You can still document all of those expenses, turn it in, and then the veteran will get an extra payment. It's never going to exceed the maximum that they're allowed to have. But again, they can get more by doing so if they don't have the maximum pension already. We're going to go through a couple of examples here to help kind of bring this home with some actual folks involved. Doris and John are married. John's a veteran of World War II. His income is $1,800 a month. And then Doris has $1,200 a month in income. So their total accountable income for VA purposes is $3,000. They live in an assisted living community that helps John with bathing and dressing. So those are two of the ADLs. That's important. The cost for that care is $3,500 a month. So their IVAP is that -500. So again, the medical expense ate up all of the income. So because this is a married case, they're going to give John that maximum of $2,431 a month. If the assisted living community cost was $2,500, think about how much benefit he would get. In this case, the IVAP is not zero or less than zero, it's $500. So what they're going to provide him is $500 less than that maximum. In this example is $1,931. Fair market value of all property owned by either spouse is part of the asset column. So we've jumped notice from income into assets. Some property is excluded, such as real property. VA doesn't have a limit on that real property value the way that Medicaid would, for example. So it does not include the equity of primary single family residence, including the lot up to 2 acres. Even if the person is living in a nursing home or some other kind of care environment, they still are going to exclude that residence. Note here that the residence could also be rented. Personal property, that's excluded. They're not going to count the value of personal effects, such as your clothes and appliances, furniture, things like that. All right, so we're going to run through this, kind of look at the net worth calculation example to kind of tie this income and assets together. So Doris and John have combined assets of $150,000. That last calculation we did, we gave them an IVAP of $500 per month. So the VA is going to take their combined asset values plus their income to determine their full net worth. So in the first example we gave, we said it was $150,000. IVAP does not reduce the net worth. So in other words, that 150 is not going to go down based upon if their IVAP was actually a negative number. However, let's look at an alternate example. If their IVAP was $1,200 a month, how much is their net worth? You're going to take 150, which was the asset level, and add that income. 12 times 12, $14,400. So their total countable net worth is $164,400. Do they qualify for benefits? No, they don't. Tom earlier said that maximum asset level was $138,489. What would they have to do to qualify? You know, sometimes as planning tools, you can get rid of some assets. You could purchase excluded assets or you could make some transfers, but basically they would need to reduce their wealth by $25,911 in order to get under that maximum limit. What's really important with VA applications is if before you apply, you really need to have a good handle on how much a person has. If they turn in an application or even an intent to file, that kind of it marks a file date that they're going to be stuck with for a long time. So you never want to file an application while you have too many assets. It's really important to do some planning or correction before that is turned in. So if they take $25,000 and they want to get rid of it, it's going to create a penalty. VA has a 3-year look back period. Note that's different. Medicaid a long time ago used to have a 3-year look back period, but now it's 5 years. Until about 3 years ago, the VA didn't have any kind of look back period or penalty schedule. You could, have $1 million, for example, and just transfer it out of your name and turn around and apply for the VA, and there was no penalty assessed for that kind of thing. Part of the good part about them instituting these rules finally is that the asset limit that they gave us, this $138,489, is actually much higher than it used to be. So that's helpful to a lot of veterans looking to benefit from this program. So again, the VA, when you give away some assets, in this example, the $25,911, you're going to take that, divide it by that maximum pension, and that comes out to a 14-month penalty. Bonus question. How much of a benefit would John get in this example? And again, the way you calculate it is that maximum minus your IVAP, and that's going to give you the total amount that he's going to get, $1,231 a month. All right. So VA, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit when I was talking through that example, but the VA look back period is 36 months before the application date. October 18th of 2018, that was the date that those new rules went into effect. So if a person gave away assets prior to that time, they're not supposed to get penalized for it. When the VA put all of these new rules into place, some of their forms changed, and in our community sometimes, and when I say that, I'm talking about planners, people that assist people with these kind of applications. A lot of people were getting a lot of pushback and denials on applications where somebody had made gifts prior to that date, and it's just something they had to kind of argue through. What transfers are subject to penalty? Transfer is a transfer of any property for less than fair market value. So if I have $20,000 in cash and I give it to Tom over here because I like him so much, and he doesn't give me something back, you're welcome. If he doesn't give me anything back, then I've made an uncompensated transfer. I've just made that gift. So $20,000 is what they're going to count against me. It's kind of similar to the Medicaid world. Say if I have a car that's worth $20,000 and I give it to Tom and he only pays me $10,000, then I've just made a $10,000 gift. It's the difference between the value of what I gave away and actually what I got in return. This also includes if people transfer things to trust or if they buy annuities. Annuities can be pretty problematic or maybe prevent you entirely from getting some benefits for the VA. So be careful with that. It used to be an effective planning tool with veterans benefits to kind of use annuities either to take an asset and convert it to income to help people qualify, but these days that doesn't work the same way as it used to. So be super careful when you're looking at annuities. And I would say that both for VA and for Medicaid. Covered assets are going to be limited to those amounts above the net worth limit. So if I have cash that's over, say if I gave away something that I would, that the value of it, my total assets were 120, that's below the limit. And if I gave away 20 grand to Tom in that scenario, because it didn't take me from above 138 to below, doesn't matter. How long the penalty period will be, again, is going to be dependent upon the total value of covered assets that I give away, divided by that maximum pension. And that's for the married veteran, remember, and we round it down to the nearest whole number. Excuse me. And the penalty can't go beyond the 16-month time frame. The penalty is going to start the first day of the month following the date of the last transfer. So if I gave Tom the 20 grand in January, my penalty is going to start in February. Clock starts running again when the transfer was made, not on the application date. And that is something that's quite different from Medicaid. All right, process for faster decisions from the VA. I think the fastest processing time I've ever experienced with the VA was slightly less than 1 month. And basically, when you have all relevant records, every little box on all the forms is completely filled out, and you turn it all in at once, that's your best chance at it getting worked as quickly as possible. On the flip side, if you kind of turn in an intent to make a claim or a partially completed application, or you don't turn in all the documentation, the VA is going to kick out a development letter. They're going to make a request to you. Generally, if you don't answer it within 30 days, they can take action and they can issue a denial. If you produce evidence or respond or do a supplemental claim within a year from that denial, though, they'll reopen and keep hanging on to that old file date. So you might kind of flash back to earlier when I said it's really important not to make a claim when you know you're not eligible, because that file date can really stick with you and haunt you for at least a year. So basically, if you made an application, you had too much money, from the minute they deny it, you have to be, quiet, don't respond, and just stay away from the VA for a year, so until you can get a new file date typically. VA can then review and process claims, though, more quickly if we turn everything in at the beginning of it. And again, it's really important to understand the rules, know that you're eligible before you make that application to kind of keep you out of hot water. Just a few closing thoughts. When you think about long-term care, a lot of us, maybe we're at home, maybe we start having some health problems. Maybe we get some at-home assistance. Sometimes we move into an independent living environment. It's a little bit more secure or monitored than just being at home alone. Then maybe we go to assisted living at some point, and ultimately we go to the nursing home. So think about, Paul and Tom and I are all sitting here. That's 3 of us. And the statistic is that 2 out of us will need nursing care at some point. And I voted it's you 2 guys. I'm going to say you saw that coming, right? So, but anyway, so you have to kind of look when you're considering long-term care. Some of us may have long-term care insurance. We all want to stay home as long as possible, of course. But my point here is the VA has some maximums in place. It's tax-free. It's a fantastic program for those veterans that qualify. It might help them stay home longer. It might help them stay in a less restrictive care environment like assisted living or something, instead of having to go to the nursing home simply because they've run out of money. It's also a fantastic tool. Sometimes you have veterans that can benefit from the VA, and then as those care needs do increase and they do have to go to a nursing home at some point, they can still leverage Medicaid to help cover that cost. So the VA, when I kind of compare and marry those 2 worlds, the pool of veterans, of course, is a lot smaller than the pool of people who can benefit from Medicaid. But it's crucial when you start planning and working on these kind of things to both understand what you can benefit from, and the VA is a fantastic bridge to keep our veterans more independent than they would have been for a longer period of time. We're getting kind of to the tail end of this here. So when you start talking about why would I need an attorney? Why do I need help for this? People are not at all supposed to charge you for just filling out a VA application, filling out a document for you. That's not appropriate. When you start saying, do I need an attorney, or can I do these things on my own? This stuff is really complicated. The VA is notorious for kicking back applications and being difficult simply because the person may not know what to put in that block. You don't want to leave anything blank on these applications. And it's better if you get a little bit of help ahead of time, just to make sure you know that you're eligible, you're not going to have problems, and fix those things before you dive in and file an application that's going to be denied. It's also fantastic to have help from people that know Medicaid, again, because think about that statistic I said, 2 out of 3 of us are going to end up in a nursing home at some point. And when you look at the average cost of care, the majority of people that we come across, maybe they have $1,200, $1,400, $1,500 Social Security. Say they're a married veteran and they have $2,400 they're receiving from the VA. Add those numbers together and they're generally not going to cover that nursing home cost. And typically these people are going to want to utilize Medicaid at some point. So again, you don't want to do things that shoot you in the foot and prevent you from being able to use all of those programs that are otherwise available to you. So legal strategies can certainly help you get there, fix any problems you have. There's a quick list of documents here. Some of you may be familiar with them, but when you talk about estate planning, wills, powers of attorney, medical directives, those are crucial because sometimes the veteran really isn't able to participate in getting the information that's needed to put one of these applications together. And it really, really helps your family be able to look after you if you've prepared ahead of time with those kind of estate planning tools. Typically, estate plans, a lot of times you meet people and they say, oh, I have a will or I have a power of attorney. And the next question is, well, when did you do that? And it was about 18 years ago. So the law changes over time. The things that are in these documents that give you the right tools to be able to do this type of planning that we're talking about, help you take advantage of these benefit programs. It's just crucial that they're up to date for you to allow you to do those things. As you move from state to state, VA is federal. So those rules are the same regardless of where you are. And although Medicaid is a federal program, a lot of states can have some very different rules. And likewise, these documents are affected by the state that you're actually in. And the other part is avoiding scams. There are a lot of organizations or people out there that claim to be assisting veterans, and they may just be selling things like annuities, and that's not really appropriate. You don't want a veteran to get caught up in something like that that's actually going to hurt them or prevent them from being able to use these programs. So again, I thank you all for joining us. Tom, Paul, you guys did an awesome job, and I'm going to open the floor, kind of turn it back to Sheila and Marty to go over any questions. I think we have a chat box in a Q&A session. So Sheila, can you take it from here?
You know what, can we put the slide back on the contact information just so they have that while you're doing Q&A? That would be great. Thank you so much.
And guys, sorry, Sheila, I tossed it too quickly. I'm going to, can everyone see that? You might want to maybe take a snapshot if you can. This photo here is just, it kind of ties in some of those benefits and those dates of service together a little better. Can you see that?
That's not one of the slides, right? Can you send that to me and I will make a link for it and send it out with a follow-up email?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That would be great.
I intended to make that a handout and I didn't get it done.
Yeah, I will include the handout, a link to the handout with my follow-up email. That would be great.
All right.
Okay. Question number 1, and I told the people in the chat this time that I've been writing down the questions, the people's names for the questions as they came in, so we're answering them in the order they were received. Okay, John asked, are benefits available for veterans who are the caregiver for a spouse?
I'm sorry, Sheila, could you read that one more time? I didn't catch the whole question.
Are benefits available for veterans who are the caregiver for a spouse? Now, remember, all 3 of you can answer. So
Tom, feel free to pipe up. I'm going to turn this thing, yes, both. Typically, the main, when you're considering a married veteran as compared to, say, a widow, the veteran's health and status is the one that really needs to be there to initiate these claims. If the veteran was deceased and it's the widow or widower we're talking about, then it's based on their health. But say if my husband and I'm the veteran in my situation, say if I've got Alzheimer's, but he's sick too, remember, they're going to look at both of our incomes, all of our medical expenses in order to consider the IVAP, what they're going to count against us as income and whether or not I can get that maximum VA payment.
Okay. Next question. Robin wants to know, I think Paul answered this, but I want to ask it again, Paul. She wants to know, are there your services available to Tarrant County?
Tarrant County, absolutely. We welcome to serve Tarrant County.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I'll let you answer that. Okay, now the next one, here it is, from Maritza. Do you all have access to HMIS, which I do not even know what that is?
That's
And
the
can we-
homeless information system. It's where it's
Thank
a
you.
network for information for homeless.
Love you, Marty. Okay, and can we make referrals through there? Paul, I'm sure this is directed at you.
So Veterans Center of North Texas is not part of HMIS. It is a great system and I highly endorse it. Our organization is too small to accommodate the overhead to do that. But it is a good system. And Marty, we have no hands-on experience, so I can't comment on the referral process.
I'm sorry, what was that? I missed that part of it. I'm sorry.
Let's see, let me start over here. HMIS is an excellent system. We do not use it at the Veterans Center of North Texas because it is cumbersome for our small organization. So I don't have any firsthand experience. Marty, maybe you do, and you can talk to that.
No, I don't, but I don't, but we can figure that out. I don't know how those referrals work within HMIS. I know what the system is, but I've never worked with it. I apologize.
I can assist by, we're a member of the Collin County Homeless Coalition, and I can certainly talk to one of our members. If I can get a contact to call back, I'd be glad to do that.
Okay, now this is basically a comment, and I will tell you what I answered when I read this, but it's anonymous. I was curious about the prior presenter, which she's talking about Paul, for low-income folks that cannot afford an attorney to help them through this process. I find that county veteran officers are no help to my low-income families needing assistance getting qualified for aid and attendance. Now, I answered her, it is not legal to charge for an aid and attendance application, which is what I have been told, and I hope that's correct. The only charges that could apply would be for other, say, wills, trusts, documents, and stuff like that. Paul, that is correct, right?
Absolutely, that is correct.
Okay, so I don't know who she was going through, but they were trying to charge them, and that's not right. So I wanted that to be made clear that you're not supposed to. Rhonda did say that, but I want to make sure that we covered it again. Okay, now back to the other ones. Okay, Cheryl Akers has a comment that I think is very important for everyone. The 2022 copay for SNF, which is a skilled nursing facility, which we're supposed to call, we're supposed to call that rather than nursing homes now today. For days 21 through 100 is now up to $194.50, which if they had a supplement, they could pick that up. But if they don't, then that's what the person would be responsible for. Yes. So
guys, if you have the handouts, I caught that earlier. It's on slide number 17. That number should read $194.50.
Okay. All right, next one. This is from Evelyn. If a deceased veteran has a disabled child, is the child eligible for any type of benefit?
Deceased. There are, Paul, do you want to answer that? Okay.
That's a tough
You
one.
moved and I thought, oh, he's got it.
That's a tough one.
Okay, so sometimes it is possible. It's less common in the cases that we do. But it is possible for a surviving spouse, or when you have, and I think it may be minor children, that there are sometimes they can also be a claimant for benefits basically tied to the veteran that they didn't get yet. So that question, Marty, if you can get contact information on that one, I don't mind looking that up. It's just something that I don't do commonly enough to know it right off the top of my head.
If you will, I'm going to put my email address in the chat. If you'll email me that question, I will forward it to Rhonda, and we'll get it answered for you.
That's from Evelyn Conley. That's who that's from. Okay. All right. Next question. And this is from Jane Marie, which she is a caregiver. I already know this because she's been on our webinars before. Okay. she's dealing with an individual person. 91-year-old father-in-law is a Korean War veteran and only receives $215 a month from the VA. No spouse or dependents. He lives with us full time. His only income is Social Security. Why did the VA not give him $1,229?
It depends on it would be important to know his actual medical expenses to answer that question. So if a person is seeking aid in attendance or one of those other pensions, they do have a maximum. But specifically when you're looking at aid in attendance, if his income was $1,200 and maybe his home health or his unreimbursed medical expenses were less than that, then he's not going to get the maximum. Earlier on one of the slides, I don't remember which one, but it mentioned like caregiver agreements or paying family to be able to provide some care. It is possible if the family in this case is providing assistance to him with those ADLs, like bathing, dressing, those kind of things. It's possible to allow that veteran to pay the family member. You do a caregiver agreement, pay him kind of like you would a home health nurse. And the VA will consider that an unreimbursed medical expense, and it is possible to increase that payment. It would just be important to kind of look at the case facts such as income, the expenses that are going on to figure out why they've only awarded that amount. Remember also, I mentioned the medical expense reports. I believe that form number, if you're already on VA, might be 21P8416. That one you can fill out and put additional expenses like your medicines and mileage to doctors and all that kind of stuff. So keep in mind though, I just talked about a caregiver agreement for family members. Remember, that can be very problematic with Medicaid later if this gentleman needs to go into a nursing home. So if it were me doing that maybe for my own dad or someone, I would kind of make sure that agreement follows the Medicaid rules, just in case he needs the care. You don't want to kind of get in trouble with Medicaid and have a penalty over it.
Okay, the next question is from Anima. There are people who were in the Air Force before benefits were started. Do you cater for such people? They were in the Air Force from 1978 to 1982.
I'm going to flip back to that Word document. So for VA aid and attendance, if they were in, say those years again, Sheila, 78, did you say?
1978 to 1982.
Okay. So they're just not in a good range in terms of aid and attendance. VA, if there's a service connected, disability, then that of course is a whole different ball game, little different application, but same kind of thought process. When you're talking about aid and attendance, if they're not serving during one of these war times, now remember, you just need 90 days of active duty, 1 day of which was in those dates. I mean, you could have been in a supply closet in Kansas somewhere. You didn't have to be boots on the ground at all. The one exception is that extra Vietnam date. So you'll notice on the screen there, it says served in Vietnam versus all others. The served in Vietnam had some extra dates for them to qualify for that aid and attendance pension. But again, if you were in the military and you didn't have these dates of service, then no, you're not necessarily going to get aid and attendance. That's not to say, and Paul, please chime in, if there are any other, there's a whole slew of VA programs and the VA hospital and all kinds of things that people can seek out. It just may not be a benefit for, aid and attendance.
Paul, do you have anything to add?
No, there's, as far as aid and attendance is a great benefit if you served at the proper time, and we call this the donor hole issue. We see it quite frequently, and it's unfortunate. So we'd have to look for other benefits and services available, and without knowing more about the situation, it's just a fact of life. If you didn't serve during wartime, these benefits are not available to you.
Thank you. Okay, Cheryl Akers again wants you to address reimbursement for care management or care coordination services as an unreimbursed medical expense when provided by a geriatric care manager or aging life care professional.
That one is not something that I've seen very commonly. Cheryl, if you don't mind, could you get some contact info to Marty? And I don't mind looking into that a little bit more.
I put my email address in the chat, so
Okay.
you can send that to me, and I'll forward that on, and we'll get you an answer.
Okay, next one. But I think you just covered this, Rhonda, but I want you to answer it again. Is a lawyer or planner needed to apply for aid and attendance?
As you said, no, no. You can do, like, anyone can fill out their own, those VSO officers, there are. Keep in mind, if you're consulting or someone like a VSO is helping you with an application, they're not going to be giving you advice or planning on fixing problems or things like that. That's not really what their role is. So if you have a good handle on the rules, what qualifies you and what doesn't, you feel confident, hey, I know I'm eligible. I mean, you can do your own application. It's really a challenge for people to do because they don't know what forms to fill out, especially if they've not had practice. And of course, who has, doing those forms before, it can turn into such a long drawn out process. But no, you don't need a lawyer to do it. You can do it on your own. And you can seek help from places, people like the VSOs, or Paul, do you know of any other organizations? I think sometimes people at
Well, the DAV is very good at getting started there.
Yeah.
And some of the VFWs also.
yeah.
Okay, next from Jennifer. If a couple are both veterans, can they double their benefits?
Yes, each of them, there is a maximum. It's not real common that it happens. But there is a higher benefit when both of them are married, and I don't think we have it on our slides just because it's not a very common thing. But if you guys want to keep talking, I'm happy to look that up, and maybe Tom and Paul can take some questions, and I'll look it up for us and come back to that one.
Okay, the next one is from Martha. Does the widow of a veteran get a sliding scale income depending on other income?
I may not be understanding that question quite however it was meant. So if I don't answer what you're wanting to know, please, rephrase a little bit and I'll help you. The widow is going to be treated just like we described everything else. So if her income is, $1,200 and her medical expenses exceed that, she's going to get, the only maximum she's going to get is $1,317. It doesn't matter how much higher her expenses are, the max is the max, and she can't get more than, I say she, it could be he. The widow or widower cannot get more than that maximum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. I think you answered this, but all of you can answer this. Does this information only apply to veterans' families in Texas?
No. The VA is federal, so it doesn't matter what state you live in. Those rules are going to be the same.
Okay, and Jason has a comment, but I think he's saying that spouses can get these spousal benefits after 10 years of marriage. I don't know if that's a question. Oh, when the veteran dies, that they need to have been married 10 years. Is
That's
that
right.
true?
That's right.
Okay, good. Thank you, Jason. And thank you. I did not know that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Paul, I have a question for you, if I could. Paul, I know I got this right. I just want to make the point. You're doing this as a volunteer, correct?
That's correct.
Paul, I want to first of all acknowledge you for your service to our country. But of all the people on here, you're doing this as a volunteer, and that's incredibly, incredibly impressive. Really.
Thank you.
I mean, incredibly impressive, Paul.
Thank you.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because Jennifer now asked, what did Paul do in the Air Force? He retired from the Air Force, but I did say that, but I didn't tell him what you did.
Yeah, so I'm a Vietnam veteran, served 20 years in the Air Force, flew in B-52s at the beginning of my career, worked in a bunch of classified programs in the middle, and then at the end of my 20 years, I was on the developmental team for the B-1 bomber, flight test and evaluation. So So my real excitement, if you will, was the Vietnam War, where I flew North Vietnam missions in Hanoi, which was pretty exciting for me, and glad to live through it. Then I retired and I went to work for Rockwell Boeing and spent another 21 years there. And then I've been a professional volunteer, enjoying retired life for the last 11 years.
Now she wants to know, do you work with the Patriot House in Fort Worth?
Patriot House, I'm not familiar with that particular organization. There's a lot of organizations out there, and our goal is to have a collaborative relationship with any of the meaningful organizations. So if I can get contact, we'll contact them.
Yeah, if you'll send that to me, that would be great. I'll get that forwarded to Paul. That would be super.
And guys, if you have two veterans who are married and they both qualify for aid and attendance, their maximum annual amount is $39,036, and that's about $32.53 per month.
Okay, and a lot of, okay. Antoinette, what if a veteran dies from a service-connected disability before they are married 10 years to their spouse? Does the spouse still not qualify for VA aid and attendance?
Well, you know what? I need to look that up. I don't know that right off the top of my head.
Paul, do you know?
In general, that 10-year rule applies.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, now let's see. Oh, there's two new ones here. Hold on. Let me get to that. Oh, that's just comments. Thank you very, very much for the nice comments. And then let me see. No, I think we've answered. We're getting a lot of questions. They want to be sure that it's not just for Texas. No, they keep telling you the VA program is federal. So it is nationwide. Now, Medicaid, like Rhonda said, and I have a hard time with this too, but Medicaid is a federal program. However, the problem is Tom, jump in there and explain, because I can't explain this right. Each state is different. I don't know.
Every state modifies the rules to some extent. And so every state is a little bit different all around the country.
Which, I'm sorry, makes no sense to me, but you know, that's
basically, as long as they comply with those federal rules, they do have some leeway to customize it a little bit. So not all states, when you're talking about Medicaid, you know, Texas, for example, you know, we can do ladybird deeds here. Not all states have those. And I don't know what percentage of you guys listening to us were on the webinar a couple of days ago that was about Medicaid. So forgive me if I'm saying something that you've heard. But under Medicaid rules, people can have a house that's excluded, doesn't prevent them from getting the benefits. But if they pass away and that house winds up in their probate estate and they've been on Medicaid before they died, Medicaid can come back to the estate and say, okay, well, pay me back for all of these health benefits we provided. So a ladybird deed, and there's actually a second deed called the transfer on death deed. They work similarly in terms of Medicaid. It's a deed where I'm keeping the house while I'm living. I say when I die, I'm going to give my house to Tom. But as long as I'm living, I reserve a right, you know, to live in it, sell it, you know, rent it, and I can revoke the deed. I can do whatever I want to. So essentially, this house is mine anyway. If I've never changed it when I die, then that house passes to Tom outside of probate, and it's safe from Texas Medicaid from recovering against it. A transfer on death deed works similarly. Yes, there are some differences, and we use those two different deeds differently depending on the case facts, but again, they both work for Medicaid.
And they're both legal mechanisms to do that. So, I mean, it's all out there, and we've had the Texas State Law Center come and present on those. They're not, everybody's eligible to do that. So you should take advantage of those.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to add one thing. Paul, it was a note on one of his presentations, and he didn't even, in one of his slides, he didn't even mention it. Their only funding, pretty much, well, other than grants, their only fundraiser for the year is coming up on April 22nd, and it's a veterans golf tournament. And yes, we help participate in that because we support them, but that's not the reason I wanted to mention this. You may be in Charlotte, North Carolina, and which I know there are some people on here, and you may think, well, why would I want information about that? Because I can't be there for that. But you can sponsor a veteran to play, which is a wonderful donation because some veterans can't afford. I mean, golf is expensive. Let's face it, it is an expensive hobby. So you can support the Veterans Center in North Texas by sponsoring a veteran to play.
And how much, what's the sponsorship for that, Paul?
Well, so Sheila, thank you. I didn't know we were going to have a promotion here, but I really appreciate it. Let me just say two things. One, our veterans tournament does raise money and helps us with our operation, but this is a community integration effort. Our goal is to have community leaders play with veterans that would normally be financially challenged, with the idea that they can integrate together and perhaps build a stronger relationship between our veteran community and our corporate leaders. We charge $150 a player, and our goal is to let our veterans play with no charge and let the corporations hopefully or donors pay for it. And then the end result is just a great time for everybody, and hopefully we can lift our veterans up.
And you said
that more information, Marty or Sheila can provide the contact information. Be happy to talk to you about it.
Marty, I'm going to send you a sheet about this.
Great.
That you can send out if that's okay, because I thought
I have to make sure I can, but I would love to do that. But it's on the 22nd, is that correct, of April? Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Heritage Ranch. It's a Heritage Ranch.
Very good.
Thank you very
Paul,
much.
I am a marketer, so you got to expect this is going to come in there.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can we, I guess we're ready to go to the CEU slide. It's 11:30. If we could move to the, put up the CEU slide, we're going to go over that one more time.
Sorry, I got a few things open in my way. I'm almost there. 1 second.
You're good. You're good.
There we go.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Okay, one more time. Okay, you're going to get 3 documents. I only need 2 back. The conflict of interest form is yours to keep, just for your knowledge. Please fill out the eval form. And remember, I ask you, if you have some ideas on further programs, please put at the comments at the bottom, please put that on there. And then the sign-in sheet, just fill that out. Shoot those to me in a scan, take a picture on your phone, whatever you email, however you want to do it. Attachment, doesn't matter. Any of those ways are good. And then I will be more than happy to send you your certificate.
Nice. Additionally, after you, when you log out, there should be a pop-up evaluation form from Google. That's for our funders. Please fill that out. If it doesn't pop up, it will also be included in the follow-up email when I send Sheila's documents and the other documents we've talked about here, the handouts and that kind of thing, to you. So please fill that out. We will be with you in April. We just don't know what we'll be talking about yet. We're working on that right now, but we plan to be with you in April with the same partnership. It is an incredible partnership, Haiman+Hogue. We appreciate it greatly. Sheila, Tom, Rhonda, and Paul, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you all for joining us today. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having us.